Heyo everybody, and welcome to another discussion video. I'm starting to like these things, or at least, I'm starting to like just talking about the game in general. And today we're going to be talking about temperature shock. Yeah, it's a weird one. So temperature shock is a status effect in the game that whenever you freeze or ignite an enemy, and then you hit it with the opposite element, like if you freeze an enemy, you hit it with some heat damage, and it'll temperature shock it. What that does is it does 200 damage of disintegrate damage. Disintegrate damage is an interesting damage type that actually only a few weapons in the game actually do. Hyperpropellant does it, temperature shock does it, and EPC, thin containment field, does it to like 10%. It's not much. But there is... It's just 200 damage. That's all it does. It's unresisted by pretty much everything in the game, and it's bad. The reason why it's bad, however, is not just because it does 200 damage, is because Cryo, the freeze element, is just better at doing damage than it. The freeze element does 3 times damage for as long as the enemy is frozen, which usually is enough to kill it, because enemies don't have that high of cooling rate unless it's like an elite or something like that. But still, it's just not that good. So there's ways to make this better. There's just a lot of ways to make this better. If we add on a status effect to it, instead of just making it 200 damage, that would make it a lot better. Like, a lot. Just, like, something else that isn't damage would be better. So if you temperature shock something and everything else around it, including it, gets stunned for like 2 seconds, maybe even making this go through stun immunity, that would be interesting, and not a large AoE, like maybe 3 meters around the creature or something like that. That would be interesting. It would be worth the setup to actually do it, or make it so that whenever you temp shock something, it puts out an AoE that makes it so that it's easier to hurt other creatures around it. Like, it's easier to freeze them, it's easier to flame them. Just something else. Now, the creature doesn't have to die from this effect. It doesn't even have to take any damage if we start putting status effects on this actual temperature shock. At the current moment, it's just a consolation prize if you ever do accidentally temperature shock things. It's just something that needs to be better in the game. It doesn't need to be better. Temperature shock is a way to indirectly buff hot plasma and hot bullets. It's just a way to do that. It's also kind of gonna buff Scout's white phosphorus, which doesn't need a buff, but it's still just... we're looking to just buff that aspect in general. In any case, a little bit of food for thought. Tell me your ideas of how to buff it without it being too powerful. Just one way, without it being entirely damaged, because no matter how much damage that temperature shock is going to do, the cryo element is always going to be better. In any case, I'll see you guys next time for another discussion, or maybe, on the 26th. We'll never know.